This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
The Taliban give peace assurance in Afghanistan amid ongoing evacuation of foreign nationals. Leaders from southern Africa seek to increase homegrown COVID vaccine production capacity. And we look at how a musician is using his art to promote peace in Nigeria's restive north-central region. Hello and welcome. You're watching Africa Live. We're coming to live from Nairobi. I'm Hannah Viviers. Here are more stories making headlines this hour. Poultry farms in Ghana take a hit from a bird flu outbreak. In sport, the World Athletics Under-20 Junior Championships get underway in Nairobi. Security officials in the Afghan capital say that so far more than 2,000 people have been evacuated on military flights. Following their seizure of Kabul on Sunday, the Taliban say they want peace and have pledged against vengeance on those they deem their enemies. The Taliban also say they will respect the rights of women within the framework of Islamic law. According to the group, one of their leaders, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, has returned to the country for the first time in more than 10 years. In their first press conference, the Taliban indicated that laws would be imposed more leniently than their previous rule, which ended 20 years ago. Indian media are reporting armed resistance to the Taliban takeover in the Panjshir Valley, which is in the country's north. However, details of those reports remain unclear. Meanwhile, in Kabul, while there have been reports of women protesting, some residents have expressed cautious optimism regarding the Taliban's takeover. Reporting from Kabul, here's Afghan freelance journalist Zmarilai Abbasin.
The situation in Kabul is calm. Most of the Taliban members are in roads and streets, and they are checking the cars everywhere in roads and subway, and at the same time at the streets, that they make sure about the security. I was just talking with one of the Taliban searching the cars at the streets, and their behavior was polite, as I saw. And then I was talking with them, and they told me that they have already captured 38 cars which were lost, and at the same time they are seeking to take control of Kabul city without making any disturbance to the residents. At the same time, the Taliban spokesperson yesterday said the same thing. So that's what's happening in Kabul at the moment, and the situation is getting calmer, but the banks, the malls, and the biggest exchange market is still closed, and that makes worries. But the crowds on the street and roads are getting increased, and that's what increased every hour, and that's a difference since 3 last days.
Well, we're staying with that story, and now Zmarilai Abbasin joins us from the Afghan capital, Kabul. Thank you so much for joining us, Zmarilai. From the reports we're receiving here, it appears that normalcy appears to be returning to Kabul after the reassurance by the Taliban that there'll be no retributions. What's the latest situation on the ground?
Hello, Hannah. The situation in Kabul is much better. Well, honest, I've never witnessed such a calm Kabul before. There was robbery, there was always fear of explosion, the suicide attacks, because Taliban is in power and they are taking responsibility, so that thing is no more existing. But yes, fears of what about the ISKP or Daesh in the country, that still remain very disturbing question for more expert in the country. But the people, they are feeling much better. They are getting out of their homes. The streets are full, and the roads are also full of cars. Traffic jam finally happening. The second day, yesterday on Tuesday, while I was walking out there, It was a strange situation for me because the roads were so empty. You could have reached the places that before of the collapse of the Kabul, you could have reached these roads in 2.5 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour at least. But now you can reach there in 15 to 10 minutes. And today, again, the same situation. There is a traffic jam. People are getting out of their home, and that's parade to let's trust the Taliban, and the Taliban are showing their polite face to the people. They are behaving people when they are stopping the car politely. They are greeting, and they are just checking the documents of the cars and other documents. So these are the situations in different corners of the Kabul city. And at the same time, most of the major cities are now calm, but Nangarhar province had a bit trouble this morning where there were youth, and they were so excited, emotional about their national flag, which was something they fear Taliban will insult, and they couldn't behave anything different. There was a misconduct to the journalist in the same region which exists in east of the country. So the situation, if we compare, is far better, but politically there are a lot of challenges to the Taliban. How could they overcome on those challenges? But high-ranking Taliban delegation is in Kandahar province in south of the city, and they are emphasizing they will make a government overwhelming, and every tribe from every angle of the country would be included according to their
Ismarilai,
own.
may I just ask you on the Ismarilai, on the back of what you've said of just this, of the calm generally that you're experiencing in Kabul, do you foresee any more Afghans fleeing the country?
Yes, there's no thing. You know, what can one expect from those who have been in mountains in hiding for 20 years when they appear suddenly in a situation? As they said, they were not planning such way, but whatever. After 20 years, the fighters that have been engaged in offensive and fight with the ANDSF for all along the years and suddenly appear on the roads and streets. So no uniform, no nothing. But I was talking with one of the closest sources to the Taliban, and he was describing me their code of conduct and code of uniform and any other things, and they said it's yet 2.5 days, so we have to wait a little bit, and they are thinking about this to wash this face of the city that they appear the way, because people find a strange feeling about them. People are getting much familiar now, more than 2 days, and they will get engaged with whatever has happened. They have no other choice. This is their city, their homes, their families.
Ismarilai, may I just ask you,
deal with all these things.
may I just ask you, what more can you tell us about the return of Mullah, Abdul, Ghani, Baradar, and what do you think we should expect going forward?
As I mentioned at the beginning, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar with his high-ranking delegation just came back from Doha to southern Kandahar, and they have started their negotiation and advice and meetings with the elders in that region and all the 5 provinces in south of the country. They have engaged with different parties. And they were emphasizing that they want to make sure that there is peace. They have no enmity with anybody. But still, Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar himself hasn't appeared on media or any conference via their own media channels or the the media outlets that we have in Afghanistan. But there are reports and also information that he is planning to meet former President Hamid Karzai, Dr. Abdullah, who are now under Taliban security. Taliban armed men are in front of their doors, and I just heard a voice that the Taliban were giving satisfaction to Dr. Abdullah that he should be assured about their security, and they are taking care of all these things. So politically, things are happening, and every hour it's possible that we will witness a lot of more things from the Taliban side.
Thank you so much for all that. Zmarlai Abbasin speaking to us from the Afghan capital, Kabul. Well, hundreds of Afghans fleeing the Taliban have reportedly attempted to enter Turkey through the Iranian border. Many have made it through, though less frequently over the past few days, as security has been tightened. This route has been used by migrant smugglers for years, but once inside the Turkish city of Van, many hope to reach other urban locations, if not Europe. One dangerous route some migrants often opt for is across Lake Van. Michal Baradar reports.
Turkey has tightened its security at the border city of Van. The measures came following reports that thousands of Afghans fleeing the Taliban have crossed into Turkey through the Iranian border. Several factors make the ride a risky one. Boats generally leave after dark with their lights off to avoid attention. They're usually overcrowded, double or triple the capacity, and life jackets are not available for all passengers. Mahmoud Avcı has been working as a captain in Van for 25 years. He stresses the weather is also a critical issue.
Sometimes there are large waves, not as much anymore, but it used to be often. There were storms frequently as well. Right now it's calm, not as strong, but recently a boat capsized at Ramet. The waves were pushing it toward the breakwater.
One of the deadliest migrant disasters also took place on this lake. In June last year, 61 migrants were killed when a boat capsized, most of them Afghan nationals. The bodies of the victims were buried in a graveyard in Van, with no names, just identity numbers. Bahtiyar Kander is a member of the Immigration and Refugee Commission of the Van Bar Association and one of the lawyers representing the victims of accused smugglers.
Our expectation from the court is that those who caused the death of 61 people were 100% at fault, and who deliberately dragged people to their deaths are punished in the most severe way. Our goal is to get a sentence for murder with intent.
Though many migrants continue to take risky boat rides across Turkish waters, the attempts on Lake Van have reportedly been on the decline. Michal Bardavit, CGTN, Van, Turkey.
Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is heading to Turkey. According to a statement issued by the Turkish government, Abiy's visit is at the invitation of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. During the visit, Abiy and Erdogan will review their existing bilateral ties and discuss steps to further enhance cooperation between the countries. For more on this, let's go to our correspondent who is in Ethiopia's capital, Gerum Chala. Gerum, thank you so much for joining us. The Ethiopian Prime Minister, Gerum, is going to Turkey after visiting Eritrea. What is the significance of these diplomatic missions?
Hannah, Turkey is a strategic partner to Ethiopia, both in the economic sector and peace and security at the same time. So this visit by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and his meeting with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is a significant move for the government at this important time for the country as well, in order to form some sort of strong relationship when it comes to military cooperation or economic cooperation at the same time. And there are so many Turkish investors in this country who are also looking forward to more cooperation in this country. So this meeting between the two leaders is a significant one, very important one, Hannah.
Gerum, what should we expect during Abiy's visit to Turkey?
So, as I said earlier, in both sectors, military and economic sectors, the two countries want to strengthen cooperation. As you know, Turkey is very active in Somalia, and the regional peace and security situation is at the top of its priorities. The same goes for Ethiopia, as Ethiopia is also involved in Somalia and has its own troubles in the northern part in Tigray. So to work together with Turkey and to strengthen the already existing relationship means a lot. So we are expecting that in different sectors, from economy to military and peace and security sectors, a cooperation strengthening kind of announcement is expected after this meeting. And Ethiopia is also wanting to have more investors from the Turkey side. So we're hoping that this sort of important announcements will be made out of the meeting between Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and President Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
Giram, thank you so much for all that. CGTN's Giram Chala speaking to us from Ethiopia's capital. Well, more than 30 people, including women and children, have been killed in an attack in western Niger. This year alone, hundreds of people have been killed in extremist attacks, while tens of thousands have been forced to flee their homes. Conflict in Niger has been ongoing for about 9 years now. CGTN's Deji Badmos brings us the details on this latest attack.
This is the latest incident in a series of attacks in western Niger in 2021. The gunmen, like in previous attacks, were said to have arrived at the village of Baradar on motorbikes, shooting at people working in their fields in what locals have described as a very bloody attack. Of the 37 people killed in the attack, 13 were children, and there's been no claim yet of responsibility for the attack. In March, this same very Baradar village came under a bloody attack where suspected jihadists killed about 66 people. So far, the Human Rights Watch says over 420 civilians have been killed in the volatile Tillaberi region and the neighboring region of Tahua this year. Now, the state of affairs in the Tillaberi region, where most of these attacks are occurring, has not made things easy. The region has particularly been very volatile because it's a flashpoint zone where the frontiers of Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali converge. Now, due to its terrain, multiple jihadist groups operate in the area, and so it's been difficult for local, regional and international forces to really deal with the situation there. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
Over in East Africa, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni has condemned brutality against civilians and suspects by security agencies in the country. Museveni made the remarks in a televised State of the Nation address on security. Reporting from Uganda's capital, Kampala, here's Isabel Nikiria.
President Museveni criticized security agencies for beating up suspects as a way of persuading them to talk during interrogations. His address follows the recent appearance of suspects in court with what appears to be marks from torture. Mr. Museveni warned that torture is a lazy way of carrying out proper investigations. The president noted that instead the wrong people could confess to crimes they didn't commit, leaving real criminals to walk away free.
All these mistakes, barking at the people, beating people, isolated killings, they are not many, but they should not happen at all.
The Ugandan leader said he had met with his security chiefs and ordered that beatings should stop. He noted that gross misconduct by security personnel portrayed a bad image of the country. Ugandan police have released a statement saying it will continue reviewing its record on the use of excessive force and ensure human rights are respected. In the recent national elections, several civilians were injured and more than 50 people lost their lives following a protest over the arrest of opposition politician Bobi Wine. Campaigners have scoffed at Museveni's changed stance on torture, saying in the past he condoned it.
I would have taken him seriously if he announced punitive actions against his officers that have been abusing human rights in this country. He can still take action.
The U.S. has recently imposed visa restrictions on certain Ugandan officials over their human rights records.
Maybe because of the sanctions that some security officers got after elections, and that was just the beginning of sanctions. Maybe he has sensed that if he does not take a clear stand on human rights abuses that he has been presiding over as a commander-in-chief and president of this country, then maybe more sanctions were coming.
The 2021 World Human Rights Report on Uganda accused security forces of using excessive and unnecessary lethal force against civilians. The report notes that security forces beat, extort, shot and arrested people for allegedly failing to comply with the government's COVID-19 restrictions. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
It's time now for us to take a short break. When we return, here's what's still to come. Leaders from Southern Africa seek to increase homegrown COVID vaccine production capacity. And achieving a critical balance between the interests of local communities and nature in Kenya's Masai Mara.
How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. You're watching Africa Live. Well, the leaders of the Southern African Development Community are meeting in Malawi's capital, Lilongwe. Wednesday is the second and final day of their annual summit. On the agenda of their talks is the issue of cybercrime and terrorism. The 16-member bloc has also been discussing the impact of COVID-19 as well as increasing vaccine production capacity among member states. Malawi's president and chairperson of SADC, Lazarus Chakwera, has urged Southern African leaders to increase efforts to combat the coronavirus pandemic and called on wealthy nations to stop hoarding vaccines. Well, South African Health Products Regulatory Authority has authorized a local biotechnology company, Cape Bio, to manufacture rapid COVID-19 PCR test kits. Angela Coppola has that story.
In a first for the continent, Cape Bio worked with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research to develop the last component it needed to develop the test.
We then partnered with the CSIR to develop a local product, one such enzyme that we needed. And we worked with CSIR basically to make that enzyme, and we managed to mix it with our other reagents and make sure that we have a complete set of a diagnostic tool for COVID-19.
One of the drawbacks of the current batch of foreign-sourced PCR tests is that they need to be kept cold using dry ice.
These products are made from, are sourced from Africa, from African metagenomes, so they are quite unique. So you don't have enzymes like these in the world that are so stable even at higher temperatures. So in terms of very cold chain requirements, we can distribute our products very easily across the globe.
The company moved to bigger premises in June 2020 while getting ready for full production, which it has now reached, as it manufactures 5,000 kits a day, with each kit providing 1,000 tests. The first batch of tests will be shipped within South Africa at the end of August.
We already had about 2 distributors. One showed an interest to distribute our products in SADC region, but we're also looking at other partners that we can have in other regions in Africa.
This is great news for the country and for the continent because it means that tests will be available and at affordable prices. I'm Angelo Coppola for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
To Zimbabwe now, where the government has ordered the temporary closure of fitness centers and gyms to curb the spread of COVID-19. The development has, however, failed to dampen fitness enthusiasts' determination to keep fit, even as the pandemic continues, and they resort to improvising outside the walls of their usual gyms. CGTN's Noel Mokugo reports.
After the government ordered the temporary closure of all fitness centers, there's little going on in many gyms across Zimbabwe. But for many fitness enthusiasts, the desire to keep fit and healthy has not reduced since then. They have now sought alternatives to exercise outside the walls of gyms.
Training people at home in the comfort and the security of a home space is what I've had to do. It's different in that, of course, you're going into a space where you might not have the entirety of gym equipment, but you have to improvise, and your skills and experience as a personal trainer has to come into effect.
For those who cannot afford having personal trainers at home, the open spaces have allowed them to exercise and keep fit.
It depends on your determination, what you want to be and where you're going. You don't need a gym to be a good boxer or a good fighter or someone who wants to train. It's what you believe in that really makes you who you are.
The COVID-19 pandemic has compelled fitness enthusiasts to improvise. It has also affected the livelihoods of those who earn a living from gyms and fitness centers.
Gyms have employees, from cleaning staff to instructors to personal trainers to the gym owners themselves. It's been a lull in business.
Zimbabwe's government is urging its citizens to continue observing COVID-19 prevention measures such as masking up, social distancing, and getting vaccinated so that the country can return to normalcy. Noel Makugu, CGTN.
Well, over in West Africa, Nigeria is dealing with a cholera epidemic. Since January, more than 31,000 people have been infected with the disease and over 800 have died. The death toll in 6 months is almost half the figure recorded so far for the COVID-19 pandemic, a disease the country has been combating for nearly 2 years. Correspondent Phil Hazard tells us more from Nigeria's capital, Abuja.
65-year-old Konde Samuel has been diagnosed with cholera at this clinic on the outskirts of Abuja.
I've been having a terrible stomach pain for days now. It got worse and I started stooling and vomiting uncontrollably. That's why I rushed to the hospital and the doctor confirmed I have cholera.
Cholera is a disease that spreads in contaminated water or food and can lead to death if not properly treated. Several hospitals across Nigeria are being overwhelmed with a monthly average of over 5,000 cases of cholera recorded by Nigeria's Center for Disease Control. There have been more than 800 deaths since the start of the year.
If you check our bed capacity, we have about 20 bed capacities. But at a stage, we used to have up to 12 at a time. So only 8 of the bed you have for other ailments. In a day, you have like 10 patients just for this particular hospital. You just see them, their loved one going down, and they don't even understand what is really happening.
Cholera cases often occur in rural areas where there is lack of proper sanitation, hygiene, and many people cannot get safe drinking water. A non-governmental organization has gathered residents of one of such communities in Abuja as a way to help curb the spread.
We are here to conduct a door-to-door campaign to sensitize the residents of this community about the dangers of cholera, and at the same time to advocate for personal hygiene and environmental sanitation. So we are progressing and the people are cooperating, considering the fact that it is killing already and our hospitals are already saturated with cases of cholera.
The residents are taught how to keep their environment clean.
Nigeria is deploying huge resources to combat the pandemic, and this has taken a toll on its healthcare system. But with more efforts like this, particularly in rural areas, the aim is that the cholera epidemic can be defeated soon.
The Nigerian government is also partnering with organizations like UNICEF to promote chlorination of water among affected communities. And so far, about 4.5 million people in Borno, Adamawa and Yobe states in northern Nigeria have benefited from it. Officials hope these efforts will see fewer people needing hospital treatment like Konde. Phil Ihaza, CGTN, Abuja.
Communities living around the Masai Mara have been coexisting with wildlife for decades. But with growing populations and increased need for grazing, a more coordinated model is being implemented between communities and hotels surrounding the Masai Mara Game Reserve.
Domestic cattle herds alongside wild animals. For Kenya's Maasai community, this incongruous pairing is nothing new.
If we talk of the Maasai people and wildlife, they've been together since the beginning. So they have got ways whereby they can stay in harmony. Let's say they are able to face also to protect their cattle with the spear and the swords from the lions. So that interaction is actually from the beginning.
The community makes up the majority of the population that lives around the Masai Mara Game Reserve. And while coexistence with the neighboring wildlife is generally peaceful, drought can drive some animals on to community farmland, with predators following close behind.
The time when the wild beasts are going back to Serengeti, it's a very hard time for the predators. And you find a few zebras, and they don't like staying in the tall grass. And you find them getting out of the pack, going to the community. And you also find the predators, like the lions. They do follow them outside the pack. And when they are there, they go for the easy kill. And the easy kill is always the domestic animal.
To appease the communities and protect wildlife from revenge attacks, the Conservancy compensates herders for any loss of livestock.
What we have been doing as Mara Conservancy, we normally compensate any domestic kill. Like a cow or a goat, we compensate them, but not much, just a little. And that it has kept them happy with us here.
And while this strategy works well in the National Game Reserve, conservancies around the park adopt a different approach.
Nabosho has got a unique way whereby we try to integrate livestock and wildlife, in the sense that we just allow cattle in the conservancy at a particular time, maybe just starting at 10 until 3:30. Then by that time they go back to their villages.
The compromise allows communities to take advantage of otherwise depleted grazing areas while avoiding competition with local wildlife.
When it comes to conservation or sort of conservancy, it was a different case, because the whole point here is actually to bring a better understanding of wildlife. A cow can be sold and slaughtered, but the same thing, a giraffe or a lion can earn the money at the end of every month. So it has become something like a cow to them.
Repeated returns rather than a one-off slaughter. For the pastoralists who call this incredibly biodiverse part of Kenya home, it's a paradigm shift that's allowing both wildlife and herding enterprises to prosper. Daniel Plafker for CGTN.
We have your business news after the short break. Here's what's still to come. Poultry farms in Ghana take a hit from a bird flu outbreak.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You've got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars of Casablanca. Among the crowds in Cairo.
Who come to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt.
Along the waters of the Nile. Along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Time now for the business news. We go to Ghana, where poultry farms there are taking a hit from the outbreak of bird flu. More than 10,000 birds have died from the disease, which has been spreading across West Africa since March. CGTN's Nabil Ahmed Rafah reports from Accra.
Emmanuel Abaja started this poultry farm in Accra in December. It was after he lost his job within the tourism industry due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Now his business is threatened with an epidemic, the outbreak of bird flu.
We woke up in the morning and we saw that some were dead. Then we realized that some are giving out like a greenish droppings. After careful watching at them, we saw that some start shaking their heads, and then they look as if they are struggling Just within short 2-3 minutes, they are dead.
Ghana recorded the outbreak of the bird flu in July in 3 out of 16 regions in the country. The Ministry of Agriculture says more than 6,000 birds have died naturally, while nearly 5,000 have been killed to stop the spread of the disease. Abaja says he has lost nearly 800 birds.
They just started laying, so I was just going to depend on the eggs to pay my debts, and now all of them are gone. So it's really a big blow for me.
Veterinary officers say the outbreak of the bird flu could affect nearly 600,000 poultry farms in Ghana. Another poultry farmer, Idrisu Amadu, says he has lost 3,500 birds due to the outbreak of the disease.
Everything gone. I'll start from scratch. You understand? That's been the whole problem.
The bird flu has been spreading in West Africa since March. Ghana has banned the import of poultry from Nigeria and Togo to prevent further spread of the disease. Poultry farmers here say the outbreak of the bird flu comes at the worst possible time. They were already struggling to buy feed for their birds due to a hike in prices. The government says it will give incentives to farmers affected by the disease.
We are appealing to farmers that they should be cautious, they should report early, they should allow us to come and do the proper thing, depopulate and disinfect their farms so that we can stop the spread.
Emmanuel Abaja says he is now counting his losses. It will take him a couple of months to bounce back when the bird flu outbreak is declared over. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
Egypt has signed a deal with the United Arab Emirates to establish a joint company to manufacture vehicles with a biofuel system. The agreement will boost Cairo's plans to make use of the country's plentiful natural gas production and reduce the costly oil imports. CGTN's Yasser Kim reports from Egypt's capital.
EM Holdings, a joint venture between Egypt's Ministry of Military Production and the United Arab Emirates M Glory Company, has created a prototype of the EM biofuel pickup truck that will run on both natural gas and gasoline. The Cairo-based Emirati company's director says they've been working on the design and components for a year.
It will consist of up to 60% local components. The imported parts will be the engine from Mitsubishi and the transmission. The rest is locally produced. Wiring, harness, AC, brakes, radiator, the body, windows, seats will all be locally manufactured. Safety comes first. It is the first pickup in Egypt to have the European Safety Certificate, EMAC, the first local pickup with ABS and ABD safety systems. It is biofuel, meaning it can operate on natural gas and fuel, and so it will save 60% of expenses for the owner and will carry a bigger volume and more options than competitors in the same segment.
The pickup truck has been successfully tested in Luxembourg and also gone through 30,000 kilometers of road testing in Egypt. The agreement will see 12,000 vehicles being produced annually at Egypt's military production factory starting 2022.
This production is not just for Egypt, but will also facilitate exports. Africa is our target, and we already have purchase orders for our truck. This is the main target by M Glory. When we said we want to invest outside the Emirates, we chose Egypt because it is a gateway to Africa.
الحاجة التانية مصر معاها اتفاقات دولية كبيرة جدا.
Officials say EM Holding is not only being established for this biofuel pickup truck, but there are also plans for the manufacture of other models, including the first electric pickup truck in the region. Yasser Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
A Kenyan-Swedish company is converting traditional, noisy, carbon dioxide emitting safari vehicles into relatively silent 100% solar-powered transporters. Mbu River Camp, a luxurious eco-lodge in the Masai Mara, is one of the beneficiaries of this initiative and has procured 3 electric safari vans, which it uses on game drives. It's the first in the carbon-laden wildlife tour business. CGTN's Alexandria Majala has more.
In Kenya's Masai Mara National Reserve, a Toyota 4x4 Land Cruiser glides silently past the herd of grazing elephants, then past the pride of lions lying in the grass. The animals are completely unperturbed by the proximity of the vehicle because its diesel engine has been replaced by an electric one. The new engine eliminates the rumbling noise and, just as importantly, reduces the emission of diesel fumes.
If you drive here silently, you will of course get much closer to animals, especially the elephants that we are in now, because there's no vibrations on the ground and there's no the fume that will get a smell from like other cars. So with this, you can get all those things. They are not disturbed in any way.
Mukenya's vehicle was converted by Opibus, a Nairobi-based Kenyan-Swedish company founded in 2017. It is for now the only company in Kenya that converts diesel and petrol-driven safari off-road vehicles into electric ones. Off-road vehicles are a common sight in Masai Mara, renowned for their annual wildebeest migration. But these are the first in the usually carbon-heavy business of safari tours to be entirely powered by electric batteries.
It's like a different car that I'm driving. It takes me like 1 week to not be confused, but because sometimes you just want to change the gears every time. But for this one, it's like it's automatic. You just drive it very smoothly, no noise, no fumes. It's good for the clients, and also it's good for the environment.
The company has so far converted 10 vehicles used in Kenyan game parks, including 3 in the Masai Mara. Opibus has even more plans to change the transportation landscape in the country.
What we envision by 2030 is to have all matatus on the road to be electric, as well as utility vehicles. And what we have at the moment also are motorbikes, which are designed, frame and everything here in-house. And we aim to have more boda riders using electric bike or motorbike.
Opibus uses 35% locally made materials with the aim of eventually only using local materials. As well as being more environmentally friendly than diesel engines, the electric motors cut operating costs by half. At the Embo River camp, operations run solely on solar power. The camp says that with all their eco-operations in place, the company saves around $150,000 a year on operational costs. Alexandria Majala for CGTN.
Time for us to take a short break and return. Here's what's still to come. We'll look at how a musician is using his art to promote peace in Nigeria's restive north-central region.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Kanater, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
We cross over to Niger, where flash floods have left 55 people dead and 53,000 homeless. The authorities in that country say people building along waterways have contributed to the problem. CGTN's Wanja Mugai reports.
Nigerian Al-Mustafa Issa is a sad man. He lost his loved ones and property, including his house, during the recent flooding in Niger.
The situation is really painful for us right now, but we are submitting to the will of God. Do you see how our houses were destroyed by the waters? 4 people were missing in our family, but 3 were found. We are still looking for the 4th person, a toddler who is 1 year and 3 months old. Among those found, 1 broke a leg, another was taken to hospital in an emergency.
Issa is among the 53,000 people in Niger who have been left homeless. The Niger Civil Protection Agency says over 2,500 houses have been destroyed by the flash floods. Authorities say Maradi in the country's southeast, Agadez in the desert north, and Niamey, the capital, are some of the worst-hit areas. So far, 55 people have died across Niger. In the capital, Niamey, the death toll stands at 16. Now families are salvaging the little that's left. Some are seeking refuge in safer areas, and children can only stare at the waters still flowing days after rain stopped, hoping for better days ahead.
Every year when there are floods, we used to find shelter at the school, but this school, which we used as a shelter, has just been destroyed by the rains. Now we don't know where to go. Do you see that house there? It will fall down in an hour. But fortunately, we have all our belongings back inside.
Alassane Kadri recollects how he lost one of his children.
When I realized that my house was almost full, I took my children and my wife to a safe place. When the water level dropped, I decided to go back to the house to see what state it was in. Then my wife followed me with the children without me realizing it. They tried to cross the valley, and unfortunately, under the power of water, one of my 4-year-old children was carried away.
Floods are common in the West African country, occurring almost every year. In 2019, 53 people lost their lives. Last year, the United Nations declared a humanitarian crisis there, saying 2.2 million people needed assistance. 73 people also lost their lives. Experts are attributing these incidents to climate change. They warn that the situation could get worse if nothing is done to mitigate climate change through reduction of emissions. Officials say negligence and poor planning have contributed to the high death toll and massive damage following the floods.
Most of the neighborhoods hit by the floods are the neighborhoods that were built in the wrong places. These places are very sensitive and dangerous places, marshy places, which are technically unbuildable. These places are rather waterways, which can be used again at any time by water flows. This is what is causing the collapses in these neighborhoods. In many neighborhoods, people throw rubbish in the gutters, which blocks the water and causes flooding.
Poor disposal of waste like polythene bags has also been blamed for blocking waterways and drainage systems. For now, many of those affected are just struggling to slowly rebuild their lives. Wanja Mungai, CGTN.
A Nigerian man has introduced a new genre of music he calls Ndeng Denge, which he's using to promote peace in the country's north-central city of Jos. The city has been one of the hotspots of insecurity in Nigeria's troubled northern region. The musician says he is on a mission to encourage citizens to coexist and partner in building the state. CGTN's Tesem Akinde reports.
60-year-old Dontala treats a live audience to Deng Deng music. It's a combination of sounds from different African musical instruments played by ethnic groups in Jos.
So if instruments can come together, why not human beings? And that's why we want to use the sound of Ndeng Deng to unite people. It is said today that peace is everybody's business. And if my business is music, I want to use music to achieve peace. So how do I achieve peace with music? It is not the music that bothers us too much, but that we will get the youths from whatever creeks they are to come, and then we share our message of peace and harmony.
Jos City has witnessed a series of crises in the last 20 years, and efforts by the government to bring about lasting peace haven't been successful. Dontala and his team are trying to help. They are creating more Deng Deng singers. They give them local musical instruments so they can take the message of peace to their communities.
It is really, really enjoyable. All the tribes coming together under the Dontala groups. In fact, I even lack words to express myself today. Because of how excitement I am today.
We've been given 2 trumpets, a flute, drums and other instruments, and advised to take the message of peace through Ndeng Deng music to our communities.
Dontala and his team hope to reach ever wider audiences. And those in the audience here say the message of Deng Deng music is powerful.
Deng Deng music is an amazing music. It's so powerful, it's so real, it's so touching.
The state government in June this year donated 50 patrol vehicles and 200 motorcycles to security agencies to strengthen peace and security in the state. In the meantime, Dontola and his team say they will continue to play their part in complementing the government's efforts for a more peaceful state. Tassim Akendi, CGTN Jos, Nigeria.
The sport news coming up after the break, including the World Athletics Under-20 Junior Championships get underway in Nairobi.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sportsy. Find your game.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Time now for the sport news. The World Athletics Under-20 Championships are underway at Nairobi's Moi International Sports Center in what will be this year's second largest athletics gathering. Despite some athletics powerhouses missing out due to the pandemic, this year's event has still managed to draw 958 athletes from 116 countries. Kenya, the host nation, will line up 45 athletes in the track and field competition. World Athletics President Sebastian Coe expressed his delight at the prospect of witnessing more track and field stars emerge in the next 5 days.
This is a big moment. We've just come from the Olympic Games. That was over 200 countries competing. This is slightly less, but it still makes it the second largest athletics gathering of the year. So this will prove to be a huge competitive outlet for so many countries here. Sadly, on this occasion, for very obvious reasons, we don't have the noisy, passionate, informed fans that Kenyan athletics has always produced. But nonetheless, this will still be an outstanding championships.
Meanwhile, the event's ambassador and the men's 800-meter world record holder David Rudisha has lauded the World Athletics President for fairly awarding hosting rights of major championships.
I want to say about what our President of World Athletics promised, that he's going to bring more events close to the people. And this is one of the evidence that whatever I say, he meant it. And we are seeing more events coming to other regions across the world. So I'm very happy that we are hosting this event, and this is one of the biggest events we are hosting as a country since the inception of athletics.
The 2021 Africa Cup of Nations groups have been drawn following a star-studded ceremony held on Tuesday night in Cameroon. The postponed tournament, which is Africa's premier footballing showpiece, will be held between the 9th of January and the 6th of February 2022. Five-time champions and tournament host Cameroon have been drawn against Burkina Faso, Ethiopia and Cape Verde in Group A. Group B includes Senegal, Zimbabwe, Guinea and Malawi, while Group C will see Morocco take on Ghana, the Comores and Gabon. In Group D, Nigeria will face Egypt, Sudan and Guinea-Bissau. Defending champions and tournament favorites, Algeria lead a strong Group E that includes Sierra Leone, Equatorial Guinea and Cote d'Ivoire, while Group F will see Tunisia, Mali, Mauritania and Gambia squaring off. The governor of the Senegalese capital, Dakar, has banned all traditional wrestling bouts in the city, citing a resurgence in COVID-19 infections. The ban comes only 4 months after events resumed following a year-long suspension due to the pandemic. CGTN's Astatal has more.
Senegal's favorite domestic sport, traditional wrestling, has once again been banned in the capital Dakar due to rising COVID-19 cases. The decision has triggered fears among wrestlers who risk suffering another year of inaction following a similar suspension last year. Denied income yet again,